Show me set.
Okay. So we can start. Sir, can we start?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So very good afternoon to all of you. And being a department, being faculty member of this Department of Anthropology, I, Dr. Shoumi De, welcome all of you to this webinar, which is organized by Department of Anthropology, Haldia Government College, in association with IQAC. And today's topic is prehistory of Africa, and we have a renowned resource person, Professor Ranjana Roy, our respected teacher, and we are very much lucky that madam is with us today, and she is an eminent scholar. So I heartily welcome madam. Now I request Dr. Piyushkanti Tripathi, our OIC officer in charge of Haldia Government College. Without his permission and without his encouragement, it is not possible for us to organize this type of series of webinar in our department. So I request our sir to say something for today's webinar.
Sir, please.
Hello.
Huh.
Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Audible?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir. You're audible. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. Very good afternoon. Very good afternoon. I really feel honored and proud to welcome respected Professor Ranjana Rai, the Emeritus Professor and the former Professor of the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. I really tender my pronoun, madam. I really feel proud to welcome you. And at first, I like to congratulate to the faculty members of the Department of Anthropology of our college for organizing such lecture, because the Department of Anthropology has been organizing lecture series. This is most probably the 10th lecture, and that lecture will be deliberated. Professor Ranjana Rai. She will be speaking on prehistory of Africa. Madam will be speaking in detail about it, and the participants will be benefited from this lecture. And I welcome all the participants as well as the members of this academic arena who are taking part of this today's lecture, who are listening. They will be clearly benefited. Not only the teachers, but also the students and the other faculty members, other members of this academic area, they will be benefited from this lecture also. I welcome ma'am. Despite of her busy schedule, she has been agreed to speak on this special lecture, and this special lecture will really benefited to all the students and all the members of the academic arena who have already participated. And lastly, I extend my thanks and congratulations to the coordinator of our IQAC cell for his kind support, and other persons who have directly or indirectly rendered their support to make this program very grand success. I extend my heartfelt respect and pronoun to Professor Madam. I again welcome all of you and expect we all will be benefited from her deliberation. Thank you to all. Now I hand over to the convener.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Shadukar, who is also a co-organizer of this webinar. So please, Dipankar, say something for today's webinar.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. On behalf of IQAC Haldia Government College, I heartily welcome today's honorable speaker and eminent anthropologist, Professor Dr. Ranjana Roy, Emeritus Fellow UGC, and former Professor, Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta. Thank you, Madam, for giving your valuable time to us. Today, Madam will deliver 10th lecture of the state level lecture series organized by Department of Anthropology and IQAC Haldia Government College on the topic of prehistory of Africa. Department of Anthropology has already set an example that how we can use this adverse pandemic situation to a good academic purpose. So for conducting this lecture series, I thank Dr. Bhuban Mohan Das, Head of the Department of Anthropology of Haldia Government College, Dr. Soumi De, today's convener, and other faculty member of the department, Mr. Pinaki De Mollik, Dr. Mohan Chandra Doloi, and Dr. Solil Kumar Datta. I also like to thank our officer in charge, Dr. Piyush Kanti Tripathi, for his continuous thinking on betterment of our college and encouragement for conducting any academic activities like workshop, seminar, quiz, etc. In this welcome note, I also wanted to welcome today's audience from all over the world and also wanted to thank them for their presence in this continuous lecture series. Finally, I wishing a great success for this lecture series. I am concluding my words. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Sadhuka. Thank you, Dr. Sadhuka. Now I request our head of the department, Dr. Bhuban Mohan Das, to take over the microphone and say a few words for today's webinar.
Thank you, Soumi. Hello, respected teachers, our officer in charge, Dr. Piyush Kanti Tripathi, IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhuka, my colleagues, all other dignitaries and participants. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Department of Anthropology, Haldia Government College, I, Dr. Bhuban Mohan Das, welcome you all to the 10th lecture of this state level lecture series in anthropology. This is the first lecture of the new year 2021, and I would like to say Happy New Year to all of you. Now, it is well-known fact that this lecture series is organized by our department in association with the IQAC of the college, especially for the students of the anthropology through the virtual platform during this new normal pandemic situation. Now, we all, the team members of this anthropology department, are really feeling happy because we not only host this lecture series, but also we support from all spheres of academic world. But we also feel privileged from this virtual dash because there are several eminent resource persons grace our platform. And today we also have speaker like Professor Ranjana Roy, Professor Emeritus and the former Professor at the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, Kolkata. Today, Professor Roy will deliver a lecture on prehistory of Africa. The topic is very important for the students as well as the faculty members of the discipline because this topic is one of the very rarely discussed areas under the discipline. And at the same time, this topic is important for any individual who wants to understand the cultural evolution of the prehistoric people of Africa. Therefore, we are eagerly waiting to listen to today's discussion and with these few words, I would like to hand over this virtual dash to my colleague, Dr. Soumi De, to continue this session. Soumi, please take over this mic.
Thank you, Bhubanda. Basically, we all are very much nostalgic because many of us in these faculty members, we are direct student of our respected teacher, Professor Ranjana Roy. So now it's the time to listen our teacher. And I must say here that Madam is a former professor of anthropology in University of Calcutta and emeritus fellow of UGC. She taught in the Department of Anthropology of Calcutta since 1974. She had her education in Lady Brabourne College, Kolkata, and in Hawaii University also. She was the recipient of East-West Center Fellowship of graduates for graduate studies She has research experience of 56 years, and she published more than 106 scientific papers and 10 edited books. At present, she has elected as Anthropological Secretary of Asiatic Society. She is the member of Permanent Council of the International Union for Prehistoric and Protohistoric Sciences, a body of the UNESCO and of International Forum for the Archaeological Heritage Policies and Strategies. She convened a number of national and international seminars on cultural heritage management policies with a focus on ethnic groups. So I request Madam to deliver her lecture for our student and also for us also. Madam, please.
Thank you very much. I thank you, Dr. Dipankar Shadukha, for introducing this lecture. And I'm also thankful to Shoumi, Bhuvan, and all my former students who are now the teachers in different departments, especially in Haldia Government College. And now I start my lecture. Since everyone has already mentioned that the topic is prehistory of Africa, and what I have seen in the syllabus, mainly there are 4 sites which are mentioned, and all of them are important because of the early Stone Age cultural remains that have been come up in the they're very important for that reason, because they have given evidences of important evidences. Now I would like to show a little bit of Africa so that people can get an idea what we are going to talk about. And this is the both superimposing the political divisions and the physical divisions. And we are now will be concentrating on South Africa, East Africa, and Northeast Africa. These sites which have been mentioned, these are really located in this area. Just to go back to our old school days of geography, this is just showing, this map shows the mean annual rainfall. You see, these are the white areas which are actually desert areas, and then this is the dark pitch area, is the area where we have the maximum amount of rainfall, and corresponding to that we have the area where there are the so-called equatorial rainforests that exist. And the other places are gradually, the important thing about Africa is that the equator divides almost the continent into 2 parts, and there are the 2 tropics running across and divides this country, and that is the reason why this continent have the diversity in its climatic character. Now the area that I have just now shown is the area where lies the Great Rift Valley. Banglaয় আমরা যাকে বলি গ্রস্ত উপত্যকা. That Great Rift Valley is very important. It is a long depression in the earth which runs down the eastern side of Africa. It extends from Syria in the Middle East right down to Mozambique in Southeastern Africa, sorry. And this is very important because, again, I have this map which I have taken from a website. This shows the sites. You see the site that is called Stellenbosch is located in Vaal River Basin, and then we go to the most famous sites of East Africa, mainly meant to be mentioned is of Olduvai Gorge and also Olorgesailie, which is also located in this area very near to Olduvai Gorge, about 40 miles away from it. And then there are some new important sites. They are important because they have yielded very old absolute dates. And actually this area is very important because these are all what we call the Rift Valley area, and these are the area which is supposed to have given us the history of human evolution, both in biology and in culture. Now, this first we should mention that African Stone Age sequence is quite different from those of Europe. In Europe, we usually have the terminologies like the basic terminology is Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic for the Stone Ages, and then the Paleolithic is divided into lower, middle, and upper. Now, in Africa, we find that the order is different because there are two very important stages that are found in between. That those are known as intermediate stages because these show evolution of one earlier stage to the later stage, and they are stratigraphically marked as well. That is why it has been decided in 1956 in the Pan-African Prehistory Congress that the terminology should be early Stone Age, first intermediate, middle Stone Age, second intermediate, and then late Stone Age. Now, the present discussion is on early prehistoric culture found from the site Konso, which is located on the northeast part in Ethiopia. Then Olugesili and Oluwaigod, both of them are very close by, though while Oluwaigod is in Tanzania and Olugesili is in Kenya, and then Stellenbosch, which is located in South Africa. Now, the early Stone Age culture, I will be concentrating on early Stone Age culture, which is also equivalent to Acheulean culture. And there we have mainly the divisions, Old One culture, which is mainly pebble chopper and flake tools, and climate was dry, and it actually came out at the end of the Kagera pluvial. You must be knowing about the different pluvial sequences that were there in Africa instead of the glacial sequence that we find in Europe and in the northern part of our own country, India. And then we come to you see that I have marked the names as Acheulean, stroke Abelian, and then lower Acheulean. Actually, the terminology has evolved. First, it was named as Acheulean, following European terminology, then came Abelian. But at the present moment, the whole sequence of Handa's culture is considered as Acheulean, and then it is divided into lower, middle, and upper Acheulean. So the major part of Acheulean is found in the early Stone Age, though a little bit of the earlier part is covered by Old One pebble culture. Acheulean actually is the finer hand axe made by cylinder hammer technique. Now we should mention of Leakey, LSB Leakey, who actually had contributed a great to the understanding of prehistory of Africa as well as human evolution that had taken place. They had been working painstakingly in eastern part of Africa, the whole family, and he was actually Leakey was a British paleoanthropologist who was born in Kenya because his father was there, posted in Kenya, and then he got his training in anthropology and archaeology. He worked on African prehistory, and Olduvai was the site where he had worked from since 1931, and followed by his wife Mary Leakey, and later his two sons. Those are many of you know of them, Jonathan and Richard Leakey. Richard Leakey has done a lot of work in Kubifora area. Laetoli Kubifora area has contributed a lot to the knowledge of prehistory of Africa. Jonathan was very much in politics for a time, but he also has worked on the prehistory of Africa. And Olduvai Gorge is not only has yielded cultural remains, but at the same time it has yielded a lot of hominid fossils, and it has given both the understanding of the biocultural dimension of prehistory of Africa, and we can also see that it has immensely contributed to the knowledge of biocultural evolution, not only for Africa, but also for the world or the other continents around. So the early Stone Age sites that usually you have in your syllabus, the names, Olduvai Gorge is located in Tanzania, Koncho Gardula is the full name of the site. It is located in Ethiopia. Ologeseli in Kenya. Sorry for the spelling mistake. There should be an A. Stellenbosch in South Africa. Now we can go on a little bit explaining the different sites. And this picture I have taken from website, but the instructions that are there, the captions are all mine. And this site is located in Ethiopia on the Rift base of the Rift Valley, and it is near to a river. Of course, they have to be near to a source of the river, and it is named. The site is named according to the nearby town, Konso. And as you know, most of the prehistoric sites are named by the nearby place name that are found. And this site is very important because there are the earliest type of hominid remains are found, as well as the cultural remains. This is one of the examples that you can see of the small Australopithecine skull that had been recovered from this site. The Koncho Gardula has got a sedimentation which spans in a period of 1.3 to 1.9 million years ago. So this is a very old one. And you see the location here on the corner that the Konso, it is the World Heritage Site also. This is where you have the map inside and insert, and there you find the region which we are talking about. And this is important because there are immense artifactual remains of Acheulean type which have come up. This KGA is the name of the layers that have been given, and there are numbering of the layer, and these are the numbers from where their Acheulean cultural remains have been found. And they were above and below volcanic horizon, so it has been very easy for dating by means of potassium argon method, and the date comes between 1.34 plus minus 0.04 and 1.38 plus 0.07 million years. And the industries were found under tuff, and that is the reason, that means the volcanic ash, and that is the reason it is believed that people lived really at a time when the volcanoes were still very much active. And it's very interesting that they have also found some of the old hand axes which were made on bones, and cultural materials which I have given. They are mainly of hand axes, trihedral points, rare cleavers. They're basalt cores that are made of basalt, and then there are also basaltic flakes there. Raw material was quartz, quartzite, and other volcanic rocks. And the most important thing is that there are associated faunal remains which are found: elephant, rhinoceros, and there were also equid, suid, horses, the boars, wild boars, and then cattle. These were found there, and there had been 12 fragments were found of the hominids which belong to Homo and Homo erectus, and also Australopithecine boasi. So it is suggested that around this time that both the species lived side by side. And on the right hand side we have the very crude type of early Acheulean tools. Now we come to another site, that is Ologeseli. Ologeseli is also very famous from a very early time period. Leakey has also discovered this site, and the most interesting thing about is that you see this has been their kind of barrier has been made so as to protect the spread of these hand axes that are found. Is a unique feature of this site, and location is in Kenya, which is seen here. And this is again on the floor of the Great Rift Valley, and it was also again lying between two extinct volcanoes. And These are people lived at the base, near the basin of the lake, on the shore of the lake, which was present during the Middle Pleistocene time period. And this site is very important because it gives an idea about the early man, how they lived, where they lived, and what were their habits, what activities they followed. And these all happened during early prehistoric time period with people who had hand axe culture. Alogeseli, we are still in discussing Alogeseli. Alogeseli actually had given evidence of the camping places of early man and along the lake shores that they lived. And it also shows all that I have just mentioned, consistent human activity between 1.2 million years to 400,000 years. And the site had highest concentration of hand axes. And you see that the area that had been barricaded, we have just shown that picture in the earlier slide. And they are both the evidences of biology and culture have been preserved for understanding evolution of man and the relationship of man with the surrounding faunal evidences. They lived along the shore of the shallow lake bed, and where there were also wild animals like extinct forms of hippo, elephant, zebra, giraffe, and baboon. And there are most interesting thing is that several butchering localities were discovered at Ologeseli, that they had either they had killed the animals or they quartered the carcasses which were there, but there are evidences that they were butchering the animals into parts, and maybe they were for their food or sharing of the food among the group. These were done, and there are concentration of bone fragments of extinct animals and hand axes and other stone tools which were deposited over 100,000 years along the shifting shoreline of a now extinct lake. Ologeseli also had been, this has been Glenn Isaac, and many of you may be knowing the name of Glenn Isaac. He had done his excavation at Ologeseli, and he found artifacts and fossils in situ. Fossil hominid remain was found, the partial skull of a kind Homo erectus, and that has been found in the same level with the Acheulean hand axes, and also with other cultural remains which were associated nearby. But this skull shows that it was a little smaller than many of the other species that were found in the region. Now we come to another site which is known as Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch is a site which is located along a river. I'm sorry, it's not very clear, I think, but this is found here in this area, Vaal River. And on the Vaal River bed, the stratigraphy is shown, and the culture is called Stellenbosch, again because there is a town very near to the site known as Stellenbosch. So this is a section which is taken from the book of illustrated by Alleman in his book of Prehistory of Africa, and you can see that there are the stages of steps that are found. We call them terraces, and they are divisions of early to the present day, and accordingly the cultural remains that are found, they had been named, and these names are given as the total. The thing is called Stellenbosch culture, and they are divided according to the sequence of development as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stellenbosch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you see the picture which gives a clear idea of the sequential occurrence of the cultures, and also there are Middle Stone Age culture and Late Stone Age culture, which are also found from the whole sequence of the culture is found from the Vaal River section, and it was found during a very early time period. That is the reason why it is quite important. And you see, this is the graphical representation of the culture, along with the climatic fluctuation that had taken place. And as all of you know, that in Africa, that was a time period of alternating dry and wet phase. That means that there were more rainfall during the period which we call wet phase, and the name of the wet phase is given as pluvial period. And in between two pluvial, it has been found that there were phases where there were less amount of rainfall, and that is why it is known as dry. In fact, it is drier. It doesn't mean that everything in that region became desert. No, it was slightly drier compared to the earlier wet phases, and these are known as interfluvial phases. How do we know that? There were lakes which had shown the increase in the shore level height and decrease in the shore level height. When increased was that mean that there were more rainfall, so the water was more in the lake, and when there was decrease, that means that there was less rainfall, so the water went down. And as you know, these are the main divisions that are found: Kagera, Kamasian, and Gambian. Actually, Kagera is again divided into Kagera and Kanjiran in other places. And these are again against this cultural milieu that you find that the sequence of climate and stratigraphy is given. So this is very important for understanding for the students to know that what was the climate and what was the culture and what was the sequence which was earlier and which was later and how it has developed. Now we come to what we call Stellenbosch culture, and Stellenbosch culture had mainly tools of Acheulean type, although there had been precedents of the culture, which also is called Kafwan or Stellenbosch one, which is of Old One type. And these are mostly found during the Lower Pleistocene time period. And then during Middle Pleistocene time period, there was a distinct cultural state tradition, which at the present moment is earlier the earlier one was called Abbevillian or Chilean, and the later one was called Acheulean, but at the present consensus that the earlier one is called Lower and the later ones are called Middle Acheulean and Upper Acheulean, where there were more development of the tool types. And the important aspect is that they had a specific type of culture of technology for making the tools, and those technologies were named as Vaal technique, and the type of arranged according to sequence, and they show the kind of development. And these are the types you find the pieriform or pyriform type, pear-shaped hand axes, which gradually evolved into the ovid type. And then there are also variation development in the cleaver that has been found through one stage to the other. And that is the reason why Stellenbosch culture is also very important, because it shows the development of Acheulean tradition, and that's culture. Now we come to the Olduvai Gorge. I have taken this for the last because maximum amount of evidences are coming from Olduvai Gorge, and this is what we have. They have done it very nicely so that people can know from a very distance that we are approaching the land of the jinns. So there are the jinns and the two types of paranthropus that were found commemorating. And then I had the fortune to be there in 2009, and I was very happy to take my picture because when I was a student, then Dr. Sarkar, Shashank Sarkar, Shekhar Sarkar, he used to teach us, and jeans was discovered a little at the almost same time when we were undergraduate students, and he would fondly call Zinzanthropus as jeans. And I found that the people in Olduvai Gorge also call jeans, and they're very proud of jeans, and they have put up a very nice museum there to see how the work was done and what are the findings and how it relates to the culture of evolution of bioculture tradition in East Africa. So again, we have the same thing, which I have already said that about the Great Rift Valley. So there are the Great Rift Valley, which is so important. And the importance of geographical location of Olduvai Gorge is that it is located, of course, in Great Rift Valley, and which is a wide flat plain in East Africa, and it was formed about 20 to 25 million years ago. Why? It was due to plate movement. The Earth's surface made up of plates, and it moved, and it went down. And there were a lot of volcanoes which formed because it went down, and the lava came out, and the volcanoes also erupted. The Great Serengeti Plain and Ngorongoro Crater is a part of the formation within which Olduvai Gorge lies. The valley floor itself is 100 kilometers wide, and the line of faulting passed through the Great Lake region. The area, if you look into the map, I have shown the map. If you remember the map, you will find this area is also known as Great Lake region because a number of lakes are found in this area, and those were the lakes which has given us evidence of human being living along the shore of the lake, and at the same time they also have developed their sequence of climatic fluctuation on the basis of that lake sediments. And there were abundant fossil and cultural remains that were found, and which suggests that it was very convenient for the people to live. And so this is the Olduvai Gorge, and you see here we see the map where we have the lakes, and Lake Victoria dominates, and this whole area is known as Great Lake area of Africa. And so this is a picture where the Olduvai River flows through. Then we come to the famous place, which is known as the gorge itself, from where all the evidences have been found, and these were eroded, and all the other sites that it stands in between. And this is the gorge which has given us the evidences of various fossils and tools. Now they have made a platform overlooking this gorge so that people can sit on this, and the keeper of the museum, we will be seeing him, who gives a lecture about this. There are lots of tourists who come over about the importance of Olduvai Gorge. So he is the keeper. He was very nice. He was showing around us only because I had gone from India, from Calcutta University, and I was an anthropologist also. So he was much enthusiastic to show me around. And so you can see here, this is my pen to show the scaling, and you can see the long bone that is still lying there. And these are all the volcanic, we call tuff, that is the volcanic pumice that had been formed in this area. And these are the parts of the old lake sedimentation that was at one time in that area. Now, this is the area from where the Jinn's skull was found, and they had made up a platform-like thing where there's a plaque which describes Jinns, and at the background they also have a huge screen sort of thing where they have drawn the pictures of the life that was present. And you can see in background, we are actually standing on the bed one, and you can see on the background the other beds. And you see there are these volcanic ash tuff bed which separates one bed from the other. Then bed 1, 2, 3, these are can very distinctly seen if you go, and this area is known as FLK area. This is on the west side of Old Bygod, which has yielded maximum amount of evidences of fossils as well as cultural remains. So stratigraphic successions are these. They were formed during the Comanche pluvial time period, and you can see the beds as well. And there are various successive formations at the base of the gorge are the basaltic rocks. Basaltic rock always suggests that there was a kind of volcanic lava flow. And then there are other the deposits which come from the oldest to the youngest, and they are bed 1, bed 2, 3, 4, and there are later on other beds were found, which are Masek bed, Metudu bed, Naisiu bed. These are the beds which are also quite important, and they provide relatively complete record of Pleistocene period about 2.1 million years ago to the 15,000 years before present. And sediments of Holocene also is there. This is which is less than 10,000 years before present and also present found in the Old Bygod. So Old Bygod gives a full record of quaternary time period. And the climatic situation sequence that are found, there were a large number of scientists who were working, and they had the water bodies which were there in the Rift Valley. They are called as pluviometer, where these can, we have seen the picture where you can see the lake beds and the change in the wet and dry phases. And they have worked on these phases, and which I was saying the name of the different pluvial sequences are given on the basis of the different phases of lakes. These are all names of the lakes, different lakes that were present in that time, and which are also present at the present time. And these were all present in a very different outline during the climatic sequence that are taken. Sometimes they were full of water, sometimes they were half filled water, sometimes they were very dry. And so these are the major beds which were very important, and they yielded evidences from Kamasian and Kanjaran period. So then again, this is what is very interesting, where you see all these phases which are present and how, what are their intensity. These all suggest that amount of aridity, dryness, this peak, this suggest, and how they themselves also varied, where pluvial, one pluvial varied from to the other pluvial. And so you see here, the second pluvial Kamasian was the largest pluvial, and some people would say that there was another pluvial, but some people would again give another name to the second phase, and that we know that Kanjaran and Kamasian that are given. And something is you find along the scale, you get all the different cultural sequences that were found in that area. And this is taken from Oakley in the book called Framework for Dating for Fossil Man, where you get to see the beds on the one hand, on the other hand, the schematic representation, tabular representation of culture, the beds, the geological stages in the name of different pluvial sequence, and then the division of the Pleistocene into lower, middle, and upper. These are the Oldowan tools, which were mainly made on pebbles, and there are various types of all-round pools. Now, bed 1 is the lowest and the thickest deposit, and these were dated by potassium argon method of dating. The western part, which is known as FLK. Usually you will find FLK is the bed, which I have seen shown in the pictures where I had also been. And that's the oldest. And the date is given as 2.1 million years. And then top of the bed 1 is dated. And the deposits are differently termed by Leakey. And Mary Leakey had discovered fossil from bed 1, which is Ginns, and we have already seen in earlier slides where Ginns was found. And this showed that at the time when the Ginns and others were living there, the area was very much habitable because the area was forested and there was a lake. So people lived in the shore of on the shore of the lakes, and they also enjoyed the vegetation which were there for them, and also the fauna that were available for them to live upon. And so that's why this bed 1 is so important. So you'll find that where we had been, this is the dried lake bed, and this is a closer view. You can see the bottom of the lake where there had been a lot of pebbles and cobbles were lying, so that people also have easy access to raw materials. But it was at the background, you find that these were the places where people along the shore of the lakes that people lived. They hunted. They also collected from the vegetation that prevailed during those time period. Now it is very dry. You see that these are mainly thorny bushes. But during that time period when early man lived, it was lush green because there were more water. There were really water. It's no water now, but there were water and people lived there. And bed 2 is found lying. I've already shown you the bed 2. It was lying over bed 1, and there were variations that are found. I have given it in the slide. Those who will look into the slide, they will find that bed 2 had shown from the upper part of bed 1, there was a gradual desiccation. So lake was shrinking and grassland prevailed instead of lush vegetation. So savanna type of fauna prevailed at this time period, and the climate also gradually changed. Homo habilis has been found. Then you must be knowing about that the type of erectus that are found mainly in East Africa. They call it Augustus. They prefer to call it Augusta. And there are other explanations why there are some species level difference in the names. But it is found that in bedwood 2, 3 types of hominins lived side by side. And earlier it was the total theory of evolution had been changed. Instead of the unilinear one, that one after the other had came, it has given rise to the mosaic theory of evolution on the basis of the simultaneous occurrence of the Homo species in the same time scale. Now, bed 3 is again, it is a later deposit, and this is also, there are dates that are found, and Acheulean industry is found from this. And bed 4 again is of later date, and again wet phase is marked in bed 4, and then bed 5, this was again a time period when there was severe earthquake, and earth that we call also as earth movement. There was severe earthquake, and there were several faulting and eroding going on. But even within that climatic catastrophe, people were somehow managing to carry on. Then these are the other beds, which are later in date, Masuk bed. Then from there, one Acheulean site has been found. But from Natutu bed onward, we find Middle Stone Age culture, the intermediate culture, and ultimately what we see that the Olduvai Gorge beds, they had shown not only climatic fluctuation between wet pluvial and dry interpluvial, but there were the area also had given us important chronological sequence not only for climate but also for culture as well as for human evolution. So this is what we have already seen. And now what we call Chili-sexual culture. Again, I have said that the name has changed and a large number of tools have come from bed 2, bed 3, and they have shown gradual change in technique of manufacture and gradual development of hand axe. And now it is very interesting that hand axe was so important and it had prevailed for a very long time period. So these are some of the examples of different tools. Now, Acheulean, the importance of Acheulean stage is that there are new types of hand axes, new type of tool, that's hand axe, and there were new types of hand axes that were found. And the beds had shown that there had been how there was a change, a development from Aldoan into Acheulean stages, then Acheulean stages were gradually changed to pointed or to oval, and they were more symmetrical in shape, and there were gradual development in the flaking technology, and finally the type of technique which is known as cylinder hammer technique, that is, they used a kind of cylindrical shaped hammer to make the tools during a Acheulean time period, because those had given them a shallower, smaller flake scars, and which were really ended into symmetrical, efficient tools, and that also showed that human being was also developing into making these kind of tools. And there was a new kind of type that came out, which is called cleaver, and which is axe-like with transverse end instead of pointed end that we find in hand axes. And these cleavers people had made, nowadays we have experimental archaeology. Of course, it has started from a very long time back with the days of Leakey. It has been tested for cutting meat, wood, and other objects, and the experiment showed that cleavers were very efficient tools for skinning and cutting of meat of carcasses. And cleaver also appeared in the Acheulean stage. So these are some of the examples of cleaver, hand axe we have seen, cleaver. So what we have there, that in East Africa, Acheulean was a technological complex which is located to Homo ergaster, or we can call Homo erectus, that appeared in East Africa about 1.7 million years ago on an average, maybe a little earlier, because Conseil has given a little earlier date, 1.9, and they reflect the greater cognitive, economic, social, and territorial complexity. Acheulean represents a substantial technological advancement over Aldovan. Recently, it has been shown that making Acheulean tools require more complex neomorphological skill than Aldovan tools. So that also suggests that there was a development of the mankind as well in the biology of mankind. Stone workers now had the ability to produce large flakes, and they also made large artifacts on flakes, such as bifurs, and that at the same time they started with minute mapping of the large flakes on both sides. that produced a very efficient cutting edge along the axe borders. The large formats of Acheulean tools served several purposes, including the butchery of large animals, such as elephant, hippopotamus, which we have seen very much in Ologesele site. And they also had woodworking. Acheulean technology was one of the most remarkable of all the Paleolithic techniques. It lasted almost 1.5 million years of human evolution extended across the old world and formed the basic technological equipment for many and very different human species. So what we are now living, if we call us civilized, that's compared to the time period that Acheulean people and who bore and the people who bore the culture of Acheulean, that's the Homo erectus, they had lived a longer time span compared to what the modern men we are doing. So in conclusion, we can see the appearance of Acheulean is one of the hallmark of human evolution, which represents the emergence of a complex behavior expressed in the recurrent manufacture of large-sized tools with standard forms, implying more advanced forethought and planning by hominins. The earliest evidence of this technology dates back to 1.7 to 1.9 million years. That's the date that is found at Consol. So, thank you.
Thank you, madam, for this wonderful deliberation. And we are really very much enriched by this lecture. And now I request Dr. Mohan Chandra Dolvi to take over the microphone and continue the interactive session. Mohan.
Thank you, Shomi, and thank you, ma'am, for your nice presentation and the in-depth discussion with me as well as with our dear students. I'm request all the participants, please raise your question, if any, and you may write your question in the chat box. But ma'am, I have one question or need one clarification from you, ma'am. Are there any cultural similarities between the Africa and Indian prehistory? Cultural similarities?
Yes, of course. There are similarities, but because a lot of work had been done, and you must be knowing about this out of Africa theory, but it has taken a long, long time, and long time that gives rise to some kind of changes that from the homeland to the land that people migrated to, that shows a little bit of changes, but somehow because of maybe the mental capacity of the people of the similar ability, that we find that there have been the hand axes are very similar. Maybe in minor detail they may differ, but there are similarities. Because when we get also hand axes, flakes, and also choppers and other things that are found in India. And Petroglia and others, they have Michael Petroglia and others have worked also in this area. And I was fortunate to have organized a seminar on human evolution and culture, where people from Nairobi also had come, and those who had worked in Smithsonian University, Smithsonian Institute, they had also come, and they have given their idea of why this kind of similarity is there. And Michael Petroglia is working very hard to find out how this culture of immigration has taken place and how much impaction we have of the original homeland culture and the Indian culture that have resulted, the Acheulean culture, not the other cultures, but the Acheulean culture and the culture. Right. There are similarities.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Participants. Okay, ma'am. One question from our final semester students. This is from the Arijit Pradhan. He is asking you, ma'am. We know that most of the prehistoric archaeological sites around the world were found in Africa. Probably reasons behind it. Why the most of the prehistoric sites are excavated or we found from the from Africa? Why not other places or like the Europe?
Say it again, please. Why they occur where? I couldn't get the question.
Actually, he asking want to know, ma'am, what is the reason behind the most of the prehistoric sites were excavated or found from Africa?
Oh,
Yes.
most of the sites are excavated from Africa.
Why not
That is the reason because
Europe?
people were working there. So that is the reason why it has been worked in Africa. Also, there had been people like Leakey, Isaac Lynn, who was also a student of Leakey and others, and there had been many other people who had been working there in Africa. They had started the work there, but the thing is, they found that the area is very rich in the evidences of early man. And of course, you should know that first of all, now you know that human evolution has taken place in Africa. Darwin has predicted because there are concentration of apes there, gorilla, chimpanzee are there. So he had said that if you want to find fossil men or link the evolution of human remains, you should look into Africa. But people had worked in Africa and they had found that there are really so much out there. And maybe there are people who had worked, there were available, technology available, expert available, but at the same time, I should say that in Asia, especially in Indonesia, especially in China also, very much work is being done. And those works are mainly after post-colonial period that work had been done, and lots of work still remains to be done in Asian continent, of course. But so far it is established that the human evolution has taken place there, so people has lived longer time period in Africa. So maybe that is the reason why we are getting so much sites, and people are also rushing to excavate those areas. Grants are also available there to excavate in this area. Actually, the Eriliki Center that is there, they are having facilities for people to go and work. They invite people to go and work. Many of the people from abroad, they go, stay there, they work. But you have to have some grant, otherwise you can't go and stay there with your students. Everyone would love to say that your postgraduate students that they would also love him to go and work there. But you have to get some grants to go and stay there.
Okay, ma'am. And thank you, Arjit, for your query. I think in the chat box there is no more question. But ma'am, I have one observation. And the observation is that in the course curricula of Vidyasagar University, I think not only the Vidyasagar University, but also the course curricula or anthropology curricula of Calcutta University or other university. And in the paper of prehistory, there are large section which is in the large section on the prehistory of Europe or India, but as you discussed, ma'am, that the African prehistory is the very rich and at a long historical events or cultural development occur there. But the course curricula, in case of the university or the college course curricula of West Bengal, they mainly focus on the Europe and India. But are there any reason or reason behind this? They are not more emphasized on the African prehistory.
Well, you have
observation,
you have put a question which really I was also wondering, because I have not seen this syllabus earlier. First, I have seen it because Shomi has sent me, and I was really surprised because it is rather difficult for the undergraduate, especially for the undergraduate students.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's not because Africa has got more similarity with the Indian sequence, and but Africa has got its own sequence also. And instead of giving them an outline, that is why I try to give a bit of outline how the situation is there in Africa. It is rather difficult to get to know about prehistory of Africa. I would rather have suggested that there should be one line, prehistory of Africa. That would have been enough. Instead of giving it like Conso, Olorgesailie, Olduvai and Stellenbosch, because these creates a lot of problem for the student because those books are not available to the students to go through these individual sites and then make up what is the culture of prehistory of Africa. So I agree with you because it should have been a different way. I was just wondering that undergraduate or an undergraduate student just to give 4 site names and then find out what is happening there instead of knowing what is pluvial, interfluvial. Because in our country also pluvial, interfluvial is not similar to what was in Africa. So there should be a broader syllabus rather than giving these pointed names. I don't know, maybe one of my students had made that.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one request to you on behalf of the organizing committee. If you kindly provide some reference on the African prehistory, then our students and as well as we also will be benefited from the reference. Please, ma'am. And you can mail or you can mail also me.
You want some references?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I should have given that in the plate.
Okay.
And,
you can email to Ma'am Tony.
I would suggest that there are the books by which are very much available are there also. Some of the books, most of them they can go through the Clark, JGD Clark, and also Desmond Clark and Aliman, Prehistory of Africa by Aliman, and there are also some very recent books which have come up as well. Yes, I should have given in my slide. If you want, I can add that later on. Also, the complete note of publication and others, so that people can be. Actually, I completely forgotten that. I should have given. I was telling Shomi at the beginning that I should have given some references so that when whoever is going through the slide, they can also get the references. But this is my mistake.
Okay, ma'am. One question from our undergraduate student from the Nirupam Pai. He is asking, what is the oldest civilization in Africa?
What is the
oldest civilization in Africa?
What does he mean by asking? What does he mean by civilization? Human culture or civilization has got a completely different connotation. Civilization means that, according to Gordon Childe, that if you ask a prehistorian or a historian, it has to have certain characteristic features, then we call them civilization. Otherwise, we call them culture. So, at least if you say civilization, that was what came in Nile Valley. But if you go to answer that what is the earliest culture, that's the old one culture.
Okay. My fellow colleagues, are there any query from your side? If any query, you can directly ask ma'am. Otherwise, we can of this particular session. Are there any questions from participants, my fellow colleagues? Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your valuable times with us and with our students. Thank you, ma'am. Shomi, I'm asking Shomi, please take over the session.
Thank you, Mohan. And thank you, Madam, once again. It's really a great opportunity for us for having you with us today. And I'm sure all the listeners have been enriched for hearing you. Uh, and now we are at the end of this webinar. So I would like to request Dr. Bhuban Mohan Das to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Soumi. I'm audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, very
Yeah,
much
audible.
audible.
Okay. Respected all, our distinguished speaker, our officer in charge, IQAC coordinator, other teachers, guests, and my dear participants. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who helped us in making this 10th lecture of the state level lecture series in anthropology such a resounding success. First of all, I would like to propose hearty vote of thanks to our invited resource person, Professor Ranjana Roy, Professor Emeritus under the University Grants Commission, our teacher at the Department of Anthropology, University of Calcutta, for gracing our virtual dais. And ma'am, your deliberation on prehistoric culture of Africa was excellent. We are privileged, madam, for your very interesting and thought-provoking speech in a very lucid manner. Hope today's discussion helped us to enhance our knowledge and also clear our doubts regarding the cultural evolution of the prehistoric people of Africa. Now, I would like to express our thanks to Dr. Pijus Kanti Tripathi, the officer in charge of Haldia Government College, for his constant support and encouragement in this lecture series. Even when he or his family members' health crisis, sir is always with us. Thank you, sir. Now, we are also grateful to our beloved IQAC coordinator, Dr. Dipankar Sadhukham, for your motivation support that we always receive from you, sir. I am also thankful to my colleague, Mr. Pinaki Demollik and Dr. Mohan Chandra Dolai, for their excellent work as technical supervisor. Without their support, our lecture series, especially the YouTube live streaming, never been executed. Last but not the least, I am happy to express vote of thanks to our participants from different colleges and universities of the state as well as outside West Bengal, and the organizing committee members, especially the convener Dr. Soumi De, and all other departmental faculty members of our college who made this lecture a grand success. With these few words, I am handing over this dais to Soumi for closing the today's session. Soumi, please take over.
Thank you, Bhuvanda. And finally, we are at the end of this webinar, and we should officially close this session with the permission of Madam. So, Madam.
Thank you very much. I am very much happy to see you all, and very happy to repeat the same things probably which I had also given the lecture in front of you. And thank your college administration for giving me this opportunity, and so I love you all, my students.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
So officially, I'm closing the session.
Thanks, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you and goodbye.
Show me, should I leave the live streaming?
Yeah, sure.